Sir, thank you very much. I stand here in support of this very important bill that we are all discussing today. I appreciate all the points and the clarifications the Honourable Minister has given. So there's really very little left in the scope of the bill. I would, on the outset, like to thank the External Affairs Ministry, which is always very indulgent. Every time there is a crisis of anybody, either from my state or my constituency, every time I've reached out to them via a tweet, they've been most helpful. So I would like to put it on record and thank the Minister and the entire External Affairs Mantralaya for all the good work that they do. But there are a few suggestions. There are just few suggestions and clarifications I would like to ask the Honourable Minister. Most points are already covered, so I won't repeat them. But look at the Russia and the Ukraine war. During this war, there has been an incident where there is a boat which was full of food, which was attacked. Now, how do we deal? We all know, and many people before me have talked about it. Now, the next wars are not going to be physically attacking each other. These are going to be cyber attacks. So in this bill, there is nothing that has really come clearly about cyber attacks or how you're going to address cyber attacks in the future, because this bill is not only about today or yesterday, it's about something we want. Legislation also has to be very futuristic for 25 years, 30 years. Of course, we can change it and we evolve while the journey goes on. But in today's day and age, the only disappointment for me is there's no mention of any cyber attacks or how are we going to handle a situation like that. Because still that boat with food was attacked and nobody still knows who's taken it, how it's gone, where is it gone, and millions of people are hungry because of this gap or disruption that has come. The other point is talking about extraditions. Also, a lot of people did talk about extradition. Sir, extradition treaties are something, because if we arrest somebody or we want to arrest somebody and the person leaves the country, how are we going to bring them back in a time-bound manner? Because otherwise they'll be going. And I didn't want to make it political, but I would just like to give a small example. And please, I'd like to put it on record. I'm just drawing parallels for laws that we have made. And I'd like to give two examples. It's like the Nirav Modi case. Have we been able to extradite him and bring him back? The answer is not yet. So this is not a political point, but if we have not been able to bring somebody back who has created such a big fraud, is what we hear from the government for so many years, how are you going to implement this law is my first question. That's the parallel I'm drawing. So, and the second parallel I'd like to draw, because my colleague and friend P.P. Chaudhary as well as Manish Tiwari both talked about it, you are drawing a parallel of this law when you talked about clause 11 where you talked about presumption, and you both took the example of PMLA. Now, I'm just broadening the scope. Again, this is not a political point. Again, I reiterate, I'm drawing a parallel. I'm not making an allegation. But in PMLA, again, it goes the same way is what I understand from what P.P. Chaudhary, and these are all lawyers. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't understand law as well as these two lawyers understand it or interpret it. I am just a novice at all this. So my question to the Honourable Minister is that if PMLA, like you rightly, both of you drew parity in it, that the whole, you have to prove that you're innocent. Now, I'll give you a small example of Sanjay Raut, who happens to be a part of this thing. He was arrested. He was left after 103 days. And the order which came out said that, I'm just using it as a parallel. I'm not making an allegation. So all that he said was, the order says, I'm not saying this is what the judge and the court says, that there was no case against him, and how was he arrested? So my limited question to you is that you yourself, I mean people from the Treasury as well as the opposition, has drawn the same parity that PMLA has ambiguity and it has presumption. So I think we should be careful while making laws, and I clearly remember I'm so glad Mr. Dubey is in the House right now, because he talked about this ambiguity when this bill of PMLA was discussed. And I still remember, and he said it can. Now I'm not getting into the merits whether this government is using it on the opposition or not. That's not what I'm here for. That's not what I want to debate here or discuss here. My limited point is that when we make laws which are so important, and if we feel, and like a consensus of the House, that everybody is supporting this law, but if there is ambiguity and there is presumption, then should we make, maybe mistake, maybe a wrong word, But should we follow, if we have doubts about what we did in PMLA, should we repeat those ambiguities and presumptions so that no law should get misused? That's my limited point. So I just want this clarification about the death penalty. Plenty has said about Clause 3, the Chinese naval presence, but I know these are very sensitive issues, and I do respect that the Honorable External Minister may not be able to speak freely about these relationships. This is not also the agenda for it or the place for it. But I would like to request him on this occasion that there is always in society and in newspapers, if you read, there is always this sort of, the pot is boiling somewhere. So if the External Affairs Ministry would have a broader discussion on our relationships, because Meenakshi Lekhi ji was very kind enough by reading out all the accolades of this government and so many wonderful things that they have done and hosted so many people and been hosted by so many people. We're all very proud of it as Indians. But we would like to know, and why not have a broader discussion on China-India relationship? I think this bill is welcome, but we can't leave China and our relationship with all our neighbors when we discuss these kind of bills. So my only request to you is, if while I draw these two parallels, one, you missed my one point, so I'll just repeat it quickly, is about cyber attacks. Because in Russia and Ukraine, in that entire fight, there were food ships which were taken. Now, how do you bring accountability, or who do you really punish in such a situation, which is not covered here? So just two short points, either cyber attack clarification, and Mr. Chaudhary and Manish Tiwari drew the parallel of PMLA. So if you could kindly clarify. And I support this bill. Thank you very much.
Sri Mohammed Bashir.
Thank you very much. Sir, I